Yep. Good evening, everyone. So yesterday I gave an overview on the React execution flow, right? So we discussed about how the React application works. That means how the request is processed, how the response is returned, where which content is kept. These all basics I explained. I hope everyone is clear. So I uploaded those diagrams, architectures, everything into the classroom where I have given to you for reference. So after understanding the basic flow, what we got a clarity that every application is a combination of components. React is a combination of components. Component are kept in one place. You can access the components from any place. And what is that? Index.html. Now you need to learn detailedly about components. So today we will start understanding and working with components. So what are components? How the components are designed? So yesterday's flow gives us a clarity that in React, we don't design pages, we design all components. And actually, React is component based. To work with components, components are designed with the help of functions and all. So we are going to discuss the topic React components. This is the major part of React. That means majority of React UI depends on this topic. You have so many things to understand about components. Remember, this is a very huge concept. Lot of topics are involved in this. We are going to learn all those components, how they work. So to understand components, what is component, how component works, we will discuss all related JavaScript topic also. If you already have the idea, means basic JavaScript I am not touching. So what you need to know, I will explain here, right? Generally, first point, what is a component? All these days we discussed something. What you understood by the name component, what a component means? Actually, a component is like a template. Component is like a template which provides design, styles, and logic that you can implement and customize according to requirements. That's what actually the point. A component is like a template. What does a template means? In software technologies, template means it already provided you some sample design. It already provided you some styles. It already provided you some logic. What you have to do then? It is already providing everything to you. What you have to do? You need to implement by customizing according to your requirements. Suppose they give a search bar. In the search bar, they give some items. If you want, you can use them as it is, or you can make changes. You can change the search bar appearance. You can add some new items into search bar. You can remove unnecessary what you don't need. All such customizations you can do. So a component is like a template, and it comprises of technically every component. Every component is built with three basic elements. Is built with three basic elements. One is presentation, another one styles, and functionality. Every component is built with three basic elements. Every component contains three basic things: the presentation, the styles, and functionality. How it will be like, for example, we will take a component. So component like, we open a React application. Amazon is a React application. In Amazon is a React application. Netflix is a React application. So I have Netflix. This is a React application. And see the Netflix, it's a React application. In this React application, you can observe when I scroll, there is a register component here. Register component is having email address and get started. Observe carefully. This is a component. That is a component. You observe carefully. When I scroll down, it is present here somewhere else again. You see? That means at the bottom also it is present. Now, when I scroll up, you see it is present here. And the same is repeating here. That means, are they copying and pasting the code? No. They are designing a component and they are implementing the component. Is it necessary to implement in the same way? No. Later they can change the color of that particular button. They can change the size of the button. They can add one more button. They can customize. It's not necessary that they have to use only one. Obviously, when anybody is designing a website, you know that generally when anybody designing website, basic rule of website, people usually follow the basic rule of website. And the rule like, so 70, 20 and 10 rule will be there. That is a basic rule usually followed. 70, 20, 10 rule will be there. 70, 20, 10 rule, there can be 70, 30 rule also. This is nothing but I should never see a web application with more combination of colors. It should be using 70, 30, 10, 70, 20, 10 or 70, 30 like combination. That means you see every professional people do that. I'm not talking about images. I'm talking about the base colors. That's the reason you may see uniform. The base colors here, 70 is black for Netflix and 30 is white, 20 is white and 10 is red. That is the combination of colors used in this project, in this app. Any web application follows this basic rule. That's the reason sometimes you may see that components are same, but it's not necessary. They can change colors, they can change effects and define them. So technically, a component is combination of three basic things: the presentation, styles, and functionality. How to design presentation? How do we design presentation? How you create presentation? Tell me. Presentation is designed by using markup, na? Presentation is designed by using markup, and markup language is what? HTML. Presentation is designed by using markup, and styles are defined by using CSS, and functionality is configured. It is configured by using JavaScript or TypeScript. We are going to learn both of them. First, we will learn all React with JavaScript. As I told you in the introduction itself, we are going to learn both with JavaScript and TypeScript. First, once you know JavaScript, then later I will explain TypeScript, and we will learn how to build a React application with TypeScript also. So the functionality is configured using JavaScript. Styles are defined by using CSS. Markup is defined by using HTML. All right. That is the point here. You see, when you see that the register form, this register is having some markup, it is having some styles, it is having some functionality. Functionality means on click, it will verify the user ID available or not. If available, it will ask password. Otherwise, it says register, all such logic. It may have validations like please enter email address. If you don't enter, all such things, logic can be there. So every component comprises of these three basic things. Now, how to design components? In React, how you have to create components. So React components, I will give here designing components. How we can design components? Actually, React components can be designed by using JavaScript functions or JavaScript classes. You can use JavaScript functions or JavaScript classes. React components can be designed by using functions or classes. We will discuss detailedly what is difference between a function and a class. What are the advantages, drawbacks? It's a lengthy concept. So much is there to understand about them. We can use functions and classes. And professionally, the modern JavaScript prefers using functions. Earlier, people who know old React, they are concerned about functions because functions don't have certain things. Certain concepts were not supported in functions earlier, but not now, because now professionally functions have all the abilities what it need to have. There is no problem with functions, and professional React community itself recommends using functions. Classes also we use, but not regularly in the modern designs, because classes have certain issues and the community officially recommends functions now. From React 18 onwards. That is the reason, if you have observed, when we created a React application, by default component was, have you seen the default component, app component was a function? Have you observed that? It's a function. And officially, if you go to the professional website of React, so dev, this is the official. Recently, this is React dev. This is the official website for React. This is their official website. So what is the main concept here? That means create user interfaces from components. That components is the main concept. And if you want to learn React, if you go into that React and you want to design some components, they start with a function. That means we have classes, functions, both, but the modern React recommends functions. Why? I will tell you. Differences we will see. Earlier, why we don't prefer? Because you see in your projects, because you are working in old projects, majority of React people who are already working on React, they are using not React 18 and higher version, they are using some old. In that old version, your project entirely contains classes and all. But now modern React doesn't recommend more use of classes, but at certain places we have to use classes. We will learn what is difference actually. So to design any component, we can design component using function, or you can design by using class. So in React, to design components, first you need to be very strong in your knowledge of functions and classes. So you must be very strong in your JavaScript functions concept and in JavaScript classes concept. If you are good in that, then you can create components. Let's see. I will give 2 sessions overview. I will give 2 sessions of overview. One session on functions, another session on classes, where we will learn modules and others also. Then you will have an idea on complete functions and classes. Remember, I am not teaching JavaScript. I am just highlighting some important things you need to know, right? Because if you already know functions, classes, very good. That saves my time. But if you are not, then at least some basic things you should know, which I will tell you, right? Let's see. So we are not directly jumping into designing of components. We are first learning JavaScript functions and classes. I will give you a overview on JavaScript functions. So we will discuss about JavaScript functions. Means what are the topics you need to be perfect in functions to use in React. Means I hope you already learned JavaScript functions. In JavaScript functions, what are the topics you need to be perfect, right? I will tell you those topics list, and any these topics are complex for you, I will explain. We will discuss that. Actually, what are the functions topics? Generally, you should know about function declaration and function expression. You need to know about function definition and so function parameters. These are all JavaScript topics. In function parameters, you have parameter types. You have REST parameters, parameter data types actually, and REST parameters, parameter, and spread syntax. While working with parameters, these are the 3 things you should know: parameter data types, REST parameters, spread syntax of parameters. You should know about function return, and you should know about function closure. So you should know about function recursion and function debounce, and function throttle. And you should know about the arrow functions. You should know about anonymous functions. So you should know about IIFE pattern. It is related to anonymous. You should know about the concept of what else is there? So function callbacks. So about function promises. And actually earlier we used to know asynchronous functions. So this is now obsolete. Officially we don't recommend. This is now obsolete, means no longer in use. We are not using, because that is now overtaken by a concept called promise. Promise taken that concept. We are using that promises. These are the important concepts of functions you should learn in your JavaScript. So functions has so many things to understand, right? Some you will see here. I will means remember, React is not teaching you this. React is going to implement this. React is not teaching you these all, right? It is going to implement all these mechanisms. But if you are not aware in any certain concepts to make you understand about them, I will give a simple overview of all these things. I will give a simple overview of all these things, basic overview of all these things. So I hope majority of you people coming with JavaScript as knowledge have aware of few basics related to functions. Actually, see, people who don't know complete JavaScript, they divide this because they may not have time to learn complete JavaScript, or they haven't learned complete JavaScript. Then they divide like basic, advanced. That's nothing like basic, advanced. JavaScript is JavaScript. If you haven't learned everything, then you call whatever you haven't learned as advanced. Right? That is only the mindset of our learners. Right? JavaScript don't have any advanced JavaScript or basic JavaScript like topic. JavaScript. Right? So latest means the ES version, ES6, ES5, what the new features added. Okay. Now let me give you the options here. So the options how we can manage. I hope I will give a fast overview on basic things and others. Some you will see while learning the concept. So let's see these options. If you already aware of this, it's very, very good, right? Let me give you the one by one overview for these concepts so that you can handle them. So first option is function declaration and expression. These are the two basic things first. You know that in JavaScript, a function can be configured in two ways. You have a declaration and we have an expression. For example, you see here. So what is that? We will not cover any of these topics here, right? That is not the concept. I am giving an overview. Means I'm giving an overview for this because again, we can't teach JavaScript here. This is not, I will give a simple overview on all these concepts. You have to be perfect in these to learn React, actually. Generally, we expect people coming to React with this knowledge. All this they should know and come to learn React. Right? Sometimes what happens is we design batches like JavaScript and React. In such batches, they teach JavaScript as well as React. That is a lengthy approach. It will take 4 or 5 months. Why? Because JavaScript itself is a huge concept to learn first. After that, React, it will take time. This is just React, right? So here I will give you whatever needed for understanding, for designing. If you are not aware, it will help you, right? See, what is function, declaration, and expression? Actually, every function have a declaration. Generally, declaration comprises of function. A declaration comprises of actually function name and parameters. Declaration usually comprises of function name and parameters. Usually declaration contains like this. Declaration usually contains like this. You have a function and any name for the function. And if necessary, it can have some parameters. Parameters later I will tell you. This is a function actually. This is called function declaration. We have expression. Expression comprises of a reference where function is stored. It comprises of a reference. That means you have a constant. Some name is equal to function. This is how we create. This is called function expression. In JavaScript, I hope you learned these two things. You can have a function expression and function definition. Can you tell the difference? What is difference between them? What is difference between declaration and expression? Any idea? Now, what is use of holding a function? That's okay. That's syntax itself tells that. No, it's not necessary that it should have a written value. Huh? Anything? Any difference? Right. So yeah, I will give you here. Right. So actually, the point is in the function declaration, there is a function name. That means a memory is allocated by that name. A memory is allocated by that name. In that memory, it can handle specific operation. Now, can you change that operation? In the memory, whatever operation is configured, can we change that operation? We cannot change that operation. It's have a constant. But second expression, you are using a variable. In a variable, you are configuring a function. What is the point? So in this variable reference, this functionality can change. That means what you can do according to the situation, you can assign another functionality into it. If you don't want to assign, then you declare constant, because you know that constant will not allow to assign. Constant will allow only initialization. If you want to assign any another functionality, then declare by using var or using by let. You know difference. Var let const. Var let allows declaration, assignment, initialization, but const allows only initialization. So that depends on your requirement. If you don't want this function to change its functionality, then you could define using a constant. If you want to handle and change, then you can configure a var, or you can configure a let. Name is equal to function. For example, this function is having certain initialization, like it returns some a. Now later into the same name, I can assign another function. So which can return some 10 plus 20, something like this. That means an expression can change. That means an expression allows to allocate some memory, so that in the memory you can change the functionalities. That's the reason. So generally, whenever you want to configure a function, you can do it in two ways. And you can't force anybody to use any specific. That depends on his requirement. That means he wants his function to change according to the situation. Some other function need to be in the memory. Then he will define using what? Expressions. Right? For means generally, I will show you one point here. That is the declaration and expression concept. I will just show you. In our React shopping itself, for JavaScript learning, I will create a separate folder. I will just add separate folder here. JavaScript something. And here I will just add some files, home.html. This is just to show you the point. Now I'm writing a script here. So we are configuring a script. And in the script, we have var some response. It is there. And this response is defining a function. So this response is returning some welcome. It is returning some welcome. Now, actually, you can have a lot of conditions. You can configure a lot of conditions. For example, we are using a password and some prompt. I say enter password. And here we are writing a function, condition. If password is matching with some password admin, then what it should do is, into that response, it should put a function. Which will return login success. And otherwise, in that response, it is going to put some functionality which will return, say that invalid. So invalid login. And we will call the function here. That means we have response. What is response? Response is variable name. And beside the variable name, you are using a parenthesis. That is nothing but a function. We have a function without name. You learned in JavaScript, function without name is anonymous. We call it as anonymous function. How to call an anonymous function? You call anonymous function with an empty parenthesis. That means after the variable name, you are calling the anonymous function. This mechanism is actually called as IIFE. IIFE is nothing but immediately invoking function expression. IIFE is immediately invoking function expression. That means you are immediately invoking the function expression after the variable name. Actually, response is not function name. Is response function name? Response is not function name. What is response? Response is a variable. Then why you return a parenthesis beside the variable? We are not calling a function directly. We are calling a function with reference of variable. So response is variable name and the parenthesis is immediately invoking the function which is present inside that variable. And that is what people call that as IIFE pattern. Immediately invoking the function expression. So it depends on password. So that means expression can change according to the situation. Suppose you run this, it will say enter password. I entered some wrong password. And you see, this is returning a string which I need to print. Document.write. I will print because the function is returning a string. I need to print it. That means enter password. Password is something wrong, then invalid login. And password is correct, then it will display login success. That is actually the concept of function declaration and function expression. Function declaration and expression. That is the mechanism. So JavaScript will tell you how do we define declarations and how do we define expression. This is basic thing you need to know. So this is an example for that. I will copy this example. I will upload this into class, right? So first thing what you have to know, how do we write a function? In two ways we can write a function. One is using declaration, another one using expression. You will see both techniques by React developers. React developers use both techniques. In some situations, they write function expressions. In some situations, you will see they write function declaration. Function declaration. You have two techniques. I hope you are clear with the first thing, everyone. Right? Yeah. So that is the function declaration and expression. First two things I told you. And what is function definition? You generally know. So actually, function definition is nothing but it defines the actions to perform. It defines the actions to perform. What a function have to do. For example, you have function. Function is print name. And print name is having some name and it is having some functionality. So here, I hope you already know function print name. This part is called declaration. That is called declaration. And only print name, which is function name and its parameters, this is called signature. That is called function signature. And whatever the block it contains, that is called as what? Definition. Definition. So a function have three parts. Every function that you write contains three parts. So it will have a function declaration and it will have a function signature. Another one is a function definition. So generally, how you call a function? Generally, how you call a function? By using its signature. Functions are always called by using signature. You have to call a function by signature. How to configure a function? By using declaration. And sometimes we write functions without definition. Generally, you might have not done this in JavaScript, but later in TypeScript, you will do it. Because in TypeScript, you will learn about abstract classes. Abstract classes means you will have methods and functions, but functionality is not mentioned. Why functionality is not mentioned? Because functionality is later implemented. That means you will see the functions without definition also. Why without definition? Because definition is later implemented. They just mention the functionality name. The functionality will be later implemented. We call them as abstract methods, right? So function declaration, function signature, and function definition. Whatever you mention in the block, that is called as what? Definition. That is definition. I hope this is also clear to you, right? So we have declaration, expression, and definition. Next important, we have function parameters. Remember, I am giving a quick overview. Actually, this up to function declaration expression itself in our JavaScript classes, it will take 1 hour 45 minutes. About only function declaration expression up to that part in general JavaScript batches, right? That means so much we discuss examples and definitions about that. I'm giving a quick overview to you because in React to implement components, you need to have good idea on functions first, right? So function parameter. Now tell me, what is the purpose of a parameter? Why a function needs parameter? Why a function needs parameter? So functions need parameter to modify the function. That means functions are modified by using parameters. That means the functionality of a function can be modified by using parameters. What is the necessity of a parameter? Necessity of a parameter, that means parameters are used to modify a function, modify a function functionality. You can modify the function's functionality by using parameters. What is the role of a parameter in a function? To modify the functionality. What does that mean? It's very simple actually. So what is the function here is defined is C. Let's say I'm having a function here. We are having a function and the function is print numbers. And this function is printing for where I1 I less than is equal to 10 I plus plus, and we are printing document dot write the value of I. Like this we are defining. So print numbers is a function which is used to print numbers. But how many numbers it will print? I call this print numbers, then it is going to print 10 numbers here. Now I will call this print numbers again, then it will print again 10 numbers only. But I want one function for printing 10 numbers, another for printing 20 numbers, another for printing 30 numbers, another for 5. Will you create so many functions? No, we will not create so many functions. Then how you will modify this function? We can modify this function to print 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 by using parameters. We pass a parameter, how many, and that how many we will use less than or equal to how many. That means whenever you call the function, into that you tell how many you want to print. I want to print 5. Then what will happen? It is going to modify the functionality and it will print only 5. So I want to print some 10. Then it will modify the functionality to print 10. So what is the role of a parameter? In every function, the parameter role is to modify. This is very important in future because how you will design a component which can change according to situation. It will change according to situation. That means it must be a function which takes the parameters and it will change. Do you know, actually, means later detailedly I will go, this much in depth not required as of now. Actually what happens, suppose you have input. So input, actually it is a function. Input is a function. Function name is input. And this function is having type. It is having some ID. It is having some name. It is having some class. It is having some size. So many. It is having some required. All these are the types. That means here. Now what happens is, now you mention input. Now into that you pass the type. Now what is the input type? That means if input type is email, it will work as email input, right? For password, do you have another element? For password, do you have another element? No, I don't have any another element. I have same element. What is it? Input. But its type is what? Password. So what is type? Type is a parameter. This type parameter is collecting what type you want and it returns that type. It is returning that type. That means, for example, you see here, this is a general thing actually. Suppose we are creating a function. Login is a function. What this login function is doing? This login function is returning. It is returning some markup. That means it is returning like input type input. It is returning some input. Usually this return input, I'm just giving the syntax. I'm not implementing anything. Actually, what it is going to do, it is returning. I will show you more better way. Suppose it will print document.write. I will just add here. You see, it is going to define input type is equal to, here we put a dynamic value. We put a dynamic value. And this type depends on what type you pass. And here I will use that type. I will use that type. And observe carefully now here. I am going to access login. Into that, I will pass the value as button. If I pass the value as button, then you see it is a button. It is a button. And for example, if I pass the value as not button, I pass the value as radio. That means it becomes a radio. So radio. I pass the button as what? It is some checkbox. Then it becomes a checkbox. Becomes a checkbox. That is actually how your input is designed. That means you are just using in HTML input. The wonder is how input is changing: password, text box, checkbox, radio. Because internally it is a function that returns different values. Is it returning same every time? If it is not returning same every time, how you decide which one to return? That is depending on type. That depend on type. Do you know if type is not mentioned? Type is not mentioned. If there is no type mentioned, then actually if there is no type mentioned, this input is going to return. You are not mentioning type. Then input is going to return always a simple text box like this. So I call this login again. And you see that it will return another text box here. I'm calling the login again. That means every time it is going to return only the text boxes. But now what I am doing is I'm asking type. And here I will put type is equal to whatever the type is. And here I will say first type is button. I will say second type is text, suppose radio. And next type is color, like this. I'm adding some login. Next type is date. I'm adding all this. And you will see that all those elements are there. That means actually, technically speaking, input that you use in HTML is not an element. It is a component. Input is a component. That input component have lot of behaviors. How you change the behavior? By passing the parameters. That is the nature of components. In React, you will learn this, how to design such components by yourself, right? You will learn how to create those components. But for that, you need to learn how a function takes parameters and uses them, right? So function can be parameterless or function can be parameterized. What is the need and necessity of parameter? Parameters are usually used for modifying a function. So for example, this is example here. This is example. I just given one example to you. That means what is login? It is a function. And into the function, a parameter is type. And it is using that parameter and implementing that parameter. This is a function with the parameters. That's the function with parameters. That means how you are configuring function with parameters. Okay. Now let's see the point here. That means here, you know already that. So function parameters are two types. You have formal parameters and we have actual parameters. Formal parameters and actual parameters. That means they are having two reference names actually. Reference name is nothing but, so you have a function login, into that you define type. So that means this type, whatever type is there, it is called formal parameter. That means whatever parameter defined in the declaration, it is called formal. And whenever you call this, into that you pass some button or something like this, then this is called as this button. Whatever you pass it there, that button is what a actual parameter. That means what happens now, the formal parameter will take the actual value, the actual parameter value. That means it is nothing but type is equal to what? Button. That's how it configures. So that is the formal parameters and actual parameters. Now, how many parameters login takes here? How many parameters login takes? What do you say? How many parameters login takes? Currently here only one. That is what we say arguments. Arguments. That means how many arguments a function is having. How many arguments I need to pass. The arguments indicates the number of parameters it takes. Right? How many parameters it takes. That is technically considered as arguments. Right? Yeah. That means if it takes two parameters and you are passing only one, then it says argument missing. That means one argument is missing. That means how many parameters it takes, those count is considered as arguments. We call it as argument. Okay, this is a simple overview about parameter point. So now you can have you can configure. I hope you know you can configure multiple parameters. You can configure multiple parameters. You can define multiple parameters. You can specify multiple parameters. That means a function can have one parameter or a function can have multiple. And remember, so a parameter can be any type. A parameter can be any type. A parameter can be any type. Any type means it can be a primitive data type. So, or it can be a non-primitive data type. So primitive data type means, you know, so it can be a primitive data type or non-primitive data type. Primitive data type means number, string, boolean in JavaScript, right? So we have a symbol and we have the primitive type like null and what undefined. These are the primitive types. Non-primitive type means you have an array, you have an object, you have a map like this. These are the non-primitive types, right? So usually they're used to have set like, but we don't have set anymore. We don't use them anymore. Outdated, we don't discuss at all, right? I will not consider even discussing about outdated points, right? Because sometimes people come with those outdated words like, sir, there is one option. There was that option, but we don't use that anymore now, right? Such things, I will simply ignore them, right? So these are all the modern, what modern JavaScript means, that's we are going to use here. We are not going to discuss any legacy. So parameter can be any type. Parameter can be primitive type or non-primitive type. You can have multiple parameters. So that means the concept here is what kind of, you can have multiple. I mentioned type. Suppose I am mentioning value, val. Now what we will do is the value will be that whatever the val you pass. That means now it is expecting two. It is expecting two. One is type, another one is value. It is expecting two. So now two parameter values you need to pass, value and this is register. The type is button and value is register. Then you see it is a register button, right? So similarly, you know, radios have values. Color, actually color value is nothing but color have a hexadecimal 0000. This refers to F. You see that is red. You can pass value. And you know that radio values you can't see. Radio values can be seen after submitting. When you submit, value cannot be displayed. They can have some text. If you want, you can define the text for radio. Usually, so this is date. Date also can have some values. So usually value can be in year, month, day formats. 2023 year, month is some 8 and 15. Year, month, day format is there. Usually that is the default date it takes. It should be entered in year, month, day format. A function can have parameters. Remember, generally when you learn JavaScript, people teach you this with A, B, C, X, Y, Z, A10, B20, C20, 30. I am not considering that because I am giving this idea based on React component environment. That's the reason I taken a simple login like example and defining this, right? That means you should know that parameters means not like number 10 plus 20. A parameter means it have lot of abilities in our component based environment. And that's what it can do actually, right? So generally in React, we call them component properties. These parameters are called, right? Later you will learn, this is the basic, the parameters, how you can configure. And remember, it can be any type. It can be any type. So that means you can give Boolean type, you can give number type, you can give string type, you can have an object type, any type can be there. I hope you learned different types. Huh? That means even you know that the parameter can be a function also. You can have a parameter. A function can be parameter. You can have primitive types, non-primitive types, or a function also can be parameter. Usually for callbacks, you use function as parameters, function parameters. For callbacks, you use this technique. So let's see here. This is another example for parameters. You can have multiple parameters. You can configure multiple parameters. So this is generally functions with parameters. I hope you are aware of these points up to now, right? Declaration, expression, definition, parameters. Parameter data types. Data types means it's not necessary that it should be a string type, right? For example, you are designing some checkboxes or all, then you can have a property called what? Checked. Checked. Usually the checked property, what you do? So here we define checked. That means the property you configure here. So that is checked. That means if you are configuring that, that means here into the radio value is some gender or say some like male, and checked is actually here we will put like this. Usually checked is defined like this. What do? We have a checked, and into that we will put the checked option. That means it is male and checked is what? True. We have to pass a Boolean value, true. If checked is true, that means that radio will be selected. It can be a Boolean type, it can be a string type, it can be a number type, it can be any data type. You can configure any data type, right? You can define. This is not example, just to make you understand about the parameter types, right? Now, this is basically you should know parameter with different data types. It can be array, number, string, anything. Now the question is, how many parameters like this you can pass in a function? How many parameters like this you can pass in a function? So ECMA standards refer max 1024 parameters. That's the standard limit as per ECMA programming standards. ECMA, IEEE standards, which are very much followed by different language technologies, their parameters length is 1024. That means they officially mention that. The number of parameters you can pass into a function is 1024 parameters. And passing too many parameters so is not good. Passing too many parameters is not good because it leads to injection attacks. That's the reason. So you know ES5 and higher version introduced REST parameters. REST parameter. ES5 of JavaScript version introduced REST parameter. And what is that REST parameter? So a single REST parameter. So a single REST parameter allows multiple arguments. A single REST parameter allows multiple arguments. A single REST parameter allows multiple arguments. That means one formal parameter can handle several arguments. That's what the advantage of this. So you don't need to declare several parameters. You can have one parameter which can handle several, right? Usually that is the concept. So how you configure. So let's see here. REST parameter is defined. It is defined by using ... and parameter name. It is defined by using ... and parameter name. That is the REST parameter. So you see here, suppose I am creating another simple function for you. So function is details. In detail function, we have an ID, we have a name, we have a price, we have stock, so many values are there. Now we need to print all these details. Document.write, we need to print ID. So we need to print a name. So we need to print a price. So here we need to print price. Yeah. And we need to print stock. Like this, I'm printing all the details. So that is all the details we are printing here. And you see, now I need to pass details. I need to pass so many ID. So name and the price, the price is number. And this is Boolean true or false. Like this, we have to pass. Now, so many parameters are there. And usually it works in this way. It gets and returns those details. Stock is equal to true. Okay, it is going to access and display. Now I will remove all these parameters. I will remove all these parameters. And we will put only one REST parameter called product. And this one parameter can take all the arguments. Now REST parameter is an array type. That means if it is an array type, then where this one is stored inside this. Obviously, if it is an array type, that means product is an array. In that 0, first parameter will be there. In that 1, second parameter will be there. That means REST parameter is an array type. One parameter can take all the arguments. Now what we do is then how to access them. This is first one is product of 0, product of 1. But you learned in JavaScript destructing techniques, array destructuring. I hope you learned array destructuring. That means what you do, you declare variable ID, name, price, and stock. ID and stock. And into that, you just apply the product. This is array destructuring. This is generally in JavaScript, you learn this in arrays concept. That means whatever values or elements are in array, they are now spread into these individual parameters. That means individual variables. ID contains what? Product of 0. Name contains product of 1. That's simple approach. Now you see you are passing some details like mobile. You are passing some like 101 and all these. And you see all these are updated here. This time you are using one parameter and multiple arguments. This is actually JavaScript REST parameter syntax. This is an REST parameter syntax. How it can use the REST parameter. Now, another important is in the modern JavaScript, you have a spread syntax also. Spread syntax is nothing but, and you know the rules of REST parameter. What are the rules? Every function can have only one REST parameter. Another point is REST parameter must be the last parameter in formal list. That's what you need to know. Every function can have only one REST parameter, and REST parameter must be the last if you are using with other parameters. That means if anyone asks like, along with REST parameter, can I have other parameters also? Yes, you can have, but REST parameter must be last. REST parameter must be last. For example, here you see, suppose that is basic rule actually for REST parameter. For example, here I am defining generally comma title, and you see that I want to print the title. So here I will put a heading. In the heading, I will print the title coming. So we want to print the title first. I will keep a simple heading like this. Okay. But remember, it is not allowed. Why it is not allowed? It is not allowed because REST parameter must be last. And you can see that this message is given, a REST parameter must be last. Then what you need to do is you need to shift this from here and put it here. Now this is okay. Now the first parameter I need to pass is a title. Title is nothing but like product details. And you can see that it is going to present the product details title. So you can have other parameters along with rest parameter, but rest parameter must be last. It must be the last parameter in formal list, right? This is the rest example here. Another important, you have a spread syntax. Spread syntax is nothing but, for example, you have so many parameters, ID, name, price, and what? Stock. You have so many parameters. You have so many parameters and you are printing those parameters. That means ID, name, and all you are printing. That means now how many arguments I need to pass? Means how many arguments I need to pass? 4. 4 arguments I need to pass into this function. There is another technique. What we can do is we can keep all these arguments. You can keep all these arguments in values in an array. That means you can keep all these values in an array and you can pass those values. But what happens is now these values are passed into first parameter. These values are passed into first parameter ID. That means all these values are under ID. But I want these values to spread into all. Currently you see all are present in ID only. Others are undefined. All are in ID only. Others are undefined. We want these values to spread among all. Then we use here ... This is spread syntax. That is the spread syntax. It spreads your arguments into multiple parameters. Now it is fine. That is what is difference. See, in React interviews, 40-50% of questions will be JavaScript. You can't crack React interviews if you are not good in your JavaScript. No chance. And these are all the questions asked in React interviews. What is REST? What is spread? What is difference between REST and spread? Because React is after all library. Any school kid also can learn libraries. A school kid also can easily learn library. There is nothing complicated, right? Libraries, frameworks, these are very silly things for a developer, right? They are very easy, very simple to handle. The problem is the language which that library uses. A developer must be perfect in that. Learning library, nothing, because library contains all functions. You have to learn how to use functions, right? That means already everything is written, just you need to implement. That is the nature of library. That means you are not tested on much library, you are tested much on language, because the language builds the library. That's the reason you need to be aware of all these points, right? In React interviews, even for experienced people, these questions are common, right? That means what is difference between the spread and this? This is actually spread. Spread is an approach of configuring one actual value that spreads content into multiple formal parameters. Spread is an approach of configuring one actual value that spreads content into multiple formal parameters. So spread value must be a collection. Collection means in JavaScript, it is what? Array. In JavaScript, collection is array. It must be a collection. Because you cannot spread a number or string or boolean like that. You can spread only if it is a collection. Usually, you know, string is also considered as array. String is an array of characters. So this is example. This is the spread syntax we are having. That is the spread syntax. So I hope you understood certain points. Is it clear? I hope you understood all these things, right? Up to spread. Now we have function, return, closures and all that we will see tomorrow, right? In tomorrow's session, I will finish this. And that means now you have some awareness on JavaScript function. Now we will use these functions in designing a component. But for that, you need to understand other concepts also that we will discuss tomorrow. I hope you are clear with this, right? Because generally see these topics, this entire topic, it will take 15-20 days time for JavaScript people. Only about these concepts, 10-15 days of time to learn all these things. I just wrapped in 1 hour, right? Just because to make you understand that this is what you should know in JavaScript, all these points, right? Anyhow, even you are not aware earlier, at least now you got some information about them. I hope it helps you, right? Then once we discuss other concept, then tomorrow we will finish all that concept. Then we will learn, first we will learn how to build a component with function. After that, we will go to class. That means I will teach you about class concept once we start working with class components. First, we will design function components, then we will go to class, right? Tomorrow we'll continue then, right? Yeah. Yeah, any doubts are there? You can unmute yourself and you can ask.
Yeah, hi sir, I'm Dinesh. Actually, what I'm asking, here we are not covering JavaScript.
Yes, Dinesh.
Yeah, I'm audible, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, just I want to learn JavaScript also.
You are not audible. Can you speak a little loud?
Now it is audible, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, here in React, just you cover only JavaScript,
No,
not
this is not
complete.
JavaScript class. This is React. I am just
Yes,
giving an overview of JavaScript
Hmm.
for people who don't know anything much in depth about JavaScript.
Yes, but these overview concept is
These
helpful
concepts
for
are very huge concepts. They are not just 1 hour concepts, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
But I am giving a simple overview because people have to come to React with the knowledge of complete JavaScript. Huh?
Yeah. But I'm not have knowledge on JavaScript also.
But you can
based
explore
on-
once I give some basic idea on that. I think you can explore, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
I am giving you the basic idea if you are not aware of them, so that you can explore them, right? Because to explore
Yeah,
also,
based on that, I want to take JavaScript course also.
the best one is to have a complete idea on JavaScript. You need to have JavaScript course.
Can you tell when
Hello,
we
sir.
starting is
That you contact our admin, he will let you know. Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Thanks
Yes.
for the lecture.
Yes.
I would like to ask about one thing. This is my first lecture.
Okay.
And is this the real course or just a demo lecture before the course?
This is demo, and regular will continue after these demos. For few days, we will have demos.
So
that will convert into regular.
So the regular will not restart.
This
It
is
will
regular.
just continue from this.
You assume that this is regular, right?
Okay, where can I find the
already in
previous
chat,
lectures and
already
the
in chat
curriculum?
box, I posted the link for classroom. In the chat box,
yeah, I can find in that link.
uh,
What about the curriculum?
everything is there in
All
that
in there?
class. All
Thank
the
you
curriculum
very
and course content, whatever you want, it is there in that particular repository, right?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Sir, can you please repeat once again about the declaration and expression of the function for
A declaration is static and expression is dynamic.
Okay.
Static means it will have a stable functionality and memory allocated, and the same memory will be used every time.
Sir, where this memory is stored?
Usually it is in browser memory only, na? It is JavaScript, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But browser memory mein kidhar, where in browser memory? Like
in browser architecture, you have browser persistence.
Okay.
In that browser persistence, all this data will be stored.
Okay.
If you have idea on browser architecture, you know where the data is stored. And if you are there in our first session, we discussed that.
Yes, sir. I wasn't there, but I have gone through the whole classes. I have gone into the cookies, cache memories.
You cannot see that memory, right? You cannot say that what is there in RAM I want to see.
Yes. It's
right.
virtual.
That is what you are asking.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Sir, once again, please send those links, sir. I joined the class lately.
Already just now I sent.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, thank you for giving the overview of JavaScript today.
Yeah. So I haven't given you complete overview of JavaScript, just basic about functions. I've given a fast, brief outline only, right?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, covering modules topic also, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Sir, when will the components topic start?
Already we started components topic. In that concept only you are learning about functions. How to design a component requires knowledge on functions.
Okay.
Right. You started knowing about component now, and you are in the introduction of that, right?
Okay, sir.
Hi, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I mean, in which scenario we use return in function, sir?
I will show you. Next session is about that return, right? Tomorrow's session is about arrows, returns, recursion, right?
Okay, sir.
You will see tomorrow, right?
Sir, through this React.js content, sir, we can mention 3 years of experience.
Yes, you can.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, then. So we will continue in tomorrow's session. Thank you very much.